Shalom Aleichem, everybody. I want to read you something that I wrote this week on my column on the different websites and newspapers that are publishing. And it's concerning the election upcoming in New York. And I'm reading you, it has to do with Parashat Noach, the Parashat of this week. The title of the article that I wrote, I named One Tower for All, when the goal overweights life itself. And it reads like this. This week's Torah portion takes us to the first communist regime in history, revealing how such systems gradually and with great cunning take shape. The story unfolds sometimes after the flood, as the world begins to rebuild itself. As in any society, social classes soon emerge. Rich and poor, strong and weak, successful and struggling. Humanity has learned a lesson from the past generation of the flood, not to be selfish and not to be corrupt, not to steal from one another or act violently. Yet, now a new regime and a new religion arises, a seemingly noble and positive faith, the religion of social equality. Now you have to understand, religion doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be connected to a God. Religion is any idealism that one wakes up for and fights for and has it in his heart. This new faith was founded by a man who rose to greatness. His name was Nimrod. Nimrod began to rule over Babel, as the pasuk says, and the beginning of his kingdom was Babel. Rashit mamlachto Babel. Like every charismatic leader, Nimrod was not content with partial rule. He sought global dominion. As our sages taught, I gave greatness to Nimrod, and he said, come, let's build up a city. That's a Gemara in Chullin, Mem Gimel Tzadik Tet Amud Aleph. But how would Nimrod draw people to follow him? What could he offer? He understood early on that the best way to win the masses was to promise wealth, comfort, and security. How could that be achieved? Well, one can easily offer free transportation, low rent with no increases, government-run supermarkets. Everything is equal, free, and equal to all. But where would the funding come from? The answer is simple. You take from the rich. You establish social communist government, as our Gemara says, this Gemara in Zvachim, Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Bet, the Gemara says, why was the name of the city called Shinar? Shemena'eret et ashirea. It shakes off the wealthy. How does it shake off the wealthy? It rips them from their wealth. Slowly, slowly. It doesn't happen. The Gemara says it doesn't happen right away. It's gradually happened until you strip them from their assets. Still, Nimrod knew this alone would not be suffice. Others have promised equality before him. He needed something greater, deeper, more inspiring. He needed to found a religion. A religion does not necessarily require a God, as I explained before. It can be built around an idea, a lofty ideal that captures the hearts of the masses. But every religion needs certain elements. And pay attention over here. Every religion has to have a goal with a plan. It has to have an enemy that you can fight against. It has to have a place of worship. And it has to have sacrifices. What was the goal here? The goal here was clear. To create an absolute social equality. The plan was to unite everyone under one grand project that would consume their efforts, hearts, and minds. The chosen project was the tower, symbolizing the ideology Nimrod preached. The tower would serve not just as a monument, but as the center of worship for this new faith and religion. Like every movement or religion, there had to become an enemy, someone or something that one could unite against. Always an enemy unites people. You find the villain and you fight against him. Without an enemy, there's no unifying force. Thus, they found their villain in God himself. They were fighting Hashem. As the Pasuk says, he was a mighty hunter before Hashem. Rashi explains, what does it mean? He embraced and he took the people with words, turning them to rebel against HaKadosh Baruch Hu, against Hashem. Now that there's a common enemy, everyone can direct their anger and frustration towards that enemy. By the way, usually a religion, if you take a look at Christianity, at Islam, they found the villain in the Jew. The Jew, for instance, in Christianity is the Satan, and you have to fight it out. Is the enemy of God, and in Islam as well, the Jews are considered as the people of the book in a derogatory term, and they are the monkeys and the apes and the pigs, and you have to fight them and so on. But that's what happened here. Leaders can channel now the crowd's resentment towards that, which means every person experiences failures in life, if he experiences hardships in life. Therefore, human nature is not to blame oneself, I have faults, but to take that blame and blame it towards someone else. If you can direct your blame towards another, then you are fine. And that is the human nature. You always take your faults, your misdoings, things that you are not successful at, and you blame them at someone else. It's the Jew that's at fault. He is the one that causes everybody not to be successful in wealth, in anything that you want. Usually, it's the Jew. But that's not our topic for today. Today, we want to learn that in order to create a religion, you also have to have a villain, someone that unites everybody and that you can direct your arrows towards him, and your misfortune blame on him. In essence, Nimrod created a new religion and social order built on uniting the people around a dream of equality, while designating Hashem as the great oppressor to be overthrown. In his eyes, Hashem was to blame for the flood in Noach's time. And Rashi brings this down, that he blamed HaKadosh Baruch Hu that once every so many years, the skies fall down for his arrogance over the dwellers of the earth. Thus, Nimrod provided the perfect framework. Confiscate the wealth of the rich and distribute it fairly to all. Rally the people together against their supposed common enemy, the creator himself. Nimrod's system was both economic and psychological. Control over property combined with control over emotions and belief. Immediately set out a plan into motion. The Pasuk says, and the whole earth was one language and one speech. What does that mean? Dvarim achadim. Rashi says that people were united now to rise up against HaKadosh Baruch Hu, against Hashem. Everyone had contributed equally, giving up all they own for the greater good. People gave up their life, their time, their energy, their finance, everything that they have in order to sacrifice for the greater good, which is overthrowing HaKadosh Baruch Hu, commonly towards building this palace, this new tower that is called Migdal Babel. The chosen goal was to rebuild a universal tower symbolizing their ideology, a project meant to fix the world once and for all, for generations to come. It's not only for us. We're doing it for our children and for our great children. What a noble cause. Nimrod steered the multitudes with visions of a new era, preaching that all the world's suffering came from the primitive faith in one God, dark and oppressive religion that had brought only floods, destruction, and death. But what about the sacrifices? Every religion has their sacrifices. What were the sacrifices over here? Our sages tell us that human life was very cheap. If a brick fell down from the tower, people were mourning that brick. But if a human fell and died, they said that is part of the big mission. This is a sacrifice upon the altar of the ideology. The religion of equality repeats itself throughout history. It reemerges every time in new ways, wrapped in fresh slogans, yet always follows the same pattern. It sweeps the masses with promises of justice and hope, ignites dreams of better future, and ends in devastation. It leaves behind economic collapse, moral decay, and spiritual ruins. Today is not any different. Even today, we witness the return of such cunning movement, cloaked in modern garments of compassion and equality. But beneath this enlightened vision lies the same spoiled and ancient root, the desire to erase personal responsibility and blame the Jew, or in this case, God, or in today, you blame Israel for all. That's what's happening today in New York election. In New York, a new movement has erupted, led by a man who promised the same old ideas: equality for all, free transit, heavy taxation on the wealthy. But in practice, it's just a scapegoat for aiming exactly at the Jew. Who's the rich is directing his arrows at? The Jewish community. The villain today, in his eyes, is Israel. Not only Israel, also the police. Defund the police. He vows to defund the police, globalize the Intifada. It's always the Jew and Israel. The movement's leaders promises that and says that since Israel is genocidal apartheid, therefore we need to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel. He meets with jihadist figures in public, and with all that, he comes to the people with a smile and seems to be a very nice guy. Let's make sure we do the right thing. We messed up on the election for the Democratic nominee, and now we might be able, just a chance that we might be able to save the day. But if we don't, it doesn't look good. So every person has to take responsibility and vote. Go to vote. Make sure you do the right thing. Thank you.